Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm very pleased to welcome you on behalf of the EIT Governing Board at, in my view, one of the most interesting panel discussions of this year's Research and Innovation Days. This session, which is co-organized by the ERC, the EIC, and the EIT, is an excellent example of how synergies between different programs and initiatives can enhance opportunities for innovators and deliver on EU priorities. In the political context of the new European Innovation Agenda, this session will look at the complementary support provided by the ERC, the EIC, and the EIT for Europe to lead the wave of deep tech initiatives. It is clear that we can do much more together if we complement each other, of course. Now, from lab to market, which is in the title of today's session, we have some distinguished speakers here with us today. We are going to exchange views about the place of the ERC, the EIC, and the EIT within the European innovation landscape and discover how we can best provide our support to innovators. And we are also going to look into examples, real life, concrete examples of how innovation journeys have been followed by two beneficiaries of ERC, EIC, and EIT, which are present here with us today. So with no further delay, let me just introduce our panelists. We have Professor Maria Leptin, the President of the European Research Council, with us. We have Professor Mark Ferguson, the Chairman of the European Innovation Council Board. Professor Jose Camani, who is Professor of Photonics at the Polytechnic University of Valencia and co-founder of iPhonics, programmable photonics. And Bertrand Van E, the CEO of Hard Hyperloop. Now, to kick our discussion today, I would like to say a few words about the EIT. To put it shortly, the EIT is Europe's largest innovation ecosystem. Our network is made up of more than 3,000 partners working across more than 80 innovation hubs in Europe and beyond. Our mission is, of course, to drive innovation and find solutions for pressing global challenges, such as, for example, providing sustainable energy, tackling the climate change, the climate crisis, digitalization, sustainable food production, securing the supply of critical raw materials, and so on. So the EIT's success is based on its unique approach, building on sustainable innovation ecosystems. We essentially unite businesses with research and education in the so-called knowledge and innovation communities, the EIT KICs, which are addressing the challenges that I just mentioned earlier. We're always putting innovators at the center and mobilize our ecosystems to provide them not just with the money, the financial support, but with the interactions and the other support that they need to be successful. Over the past decade, we have supported more than 5,600 ventures. We have contributed to the development of over 1,600 products and innovative services, helped create more than 17,000 jobs across Europe, and startups that were supported by the EIT raised more than 6 billion euro in external investment. These are numbers as of August 2022. In addition to that, we have over 4,600 masters and PhD students that have graduated from our training programs, with thousands more that are enrolled and are on their way to graduate. Several EIT-supported startups have become real success stories, showing that the EIT is a powerful engine for the creation of European unicorns of the future. We now proudly count 7 EIT-supported unicorns: the Swedish Northvolt and the Norwegian Freyr. They are both EIT Energy Kick companies. The Portuguese Sword, the French Oakin, both EIT Health companies. The German Lilium Aviation, the Swiss Climeworks, and the French Insect, which are climate kick companies. So overall these years, the EIT has forged strong synergies with other EU programs such as the ERC and the EIC now. And most importantly, we have established very close collaborations with these programs with the focus of benefiting the citizens of Europe. Together with our friends at the ERC and the EIC, we share the vision of fostering innovation in Europe. And at the same time, we have different and complementary profiles. Therefore, we have a great opportunity to pool our combined resources and capabilities together and develop strong synergies to better support innovators. So the key word here is complementarity. The EIT is, of course, ready to learn, for example, from the ERC on how it can enhance its support for excellent researchers. On the other hand, the EIT has a wealth of valuable resources and practices that it can also share with the ERC and other Horizon Europe instruments to enhance innovation, the innovation potential of funded research. As for the EIC, we already see signs of the first success emerging from our collaboration. We have already signed a memorandum of understanding, and we have put in place the fast track mechanism, which helps EIT-supported startups access the services and the funding opportunities that are provided by the EIC in a seamless manner. Now, before kicking our today's panel discussion, let me refer to a very concrete and timely example of close collaboration in the context of the recently adopted European Innovation Agenda. In this new strategy, we aim, together with our colleagues, to leverage the many talents and skills that Europe already possesses, while focusing on harnessing the new wave of innovation on its way, deep tech. The rapid and profound transformation of industry and life automatically brings the need for new skills for people. The EIT community has been addressing this challenge for more than a decade now by equipping young people with the right skills and setting them up for success. This is why the EIT has been mandated to lead several new flagship actions across Europe to develop Europe's talent base. In this context, the EIC and the EIT will launch an innovation internship scheme, the Next Generation Innovation Talents, in the third quarter of 2023, next year, to create opportunities for over 600 researchers and EIT students and graduates. Now, these interns will work and gain innovation experience in successful EIC and EIT-supported companies. And in addition to those researchers, ERC and Marie Sklodowska-Curie grant holders will also have the opportunity to participate in this new scheme. This initiative not only addresses the scarcity of highly qualified talents on the European innovation job market, but also enables researchers and innovators to get a real entrepreneurial feeling that will be useful for their future career orientation. This flagship action reflects the established collaboration between the EIC, the EIT, the ERC, and the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. By increasing the synergies between EU funding programs and instruments, this joint action actually aims to foster European innovation potential, of which I think we have plenty, and attract and retain research, innovation, and entrepreneurial talents in Europe. Now, without further delay, I would like to start by asking Maria Leptin, the president of the ERC Scientific Council. So, Maria, do we have to tell researchers really what to do in order to solve the major societal challenges of our time?
Hi, Nectarius. You know, that question almost makes me laugh. If you think back at the invention of the vaccines for COVID, do you think anybody told Ugur Sahin in Mainz to go and invent a vaccine? Of course not. So this is an excellent example where a researcher who had the freedom to do whatever they wanted went on and developed the vaccine that was then sold by Pfizer. So clearly researchers know what they're doing. So Shaheen had been working on the possible use of mRNA technology for something completely different, namely individualized cancer vaccines. But they quickly realized what was needed at that point. They were able to shift their research and develop a vaccine for COVID-19. Building on that technology, he'd received support from many sources, including an ERC grant, as well as loans from other EU programs. So, but the fact that his work was based not only on that, but also on 5 decades of previous mRNA research, and he used it to make for therapeutic purposes, shows that, you know, you don't need to tell anybody. The knowledge is out there, and he applied it when it was needed. And that's not just a one-off. There are many other examples of how it pays off to give researchers the freedom to follow their scientific dreams and their curiosity. And then some of this sometimes becomes useful. So it's absolutely essential to keep investing in this type of bottom-up frontier research at the EU level, at the national level, etc.
So indeed, ERC grantees are both pushing the frontiers of knowledge and helping make EU priorities like the European Green Deal, for example, EU for Health. You mentioned the example of the COVID vaccines, and other crucial initiatives of Europe become a success indeed. So what about the complementarity between basic research and applied science? Could you elaborate a little bit on the case of funding basic curiosity-driven research that is also directed towards innovation?
Yes, sure. You've already mentioned some of the important players there. So I totally believe in the complementarity between basic and applied science. I mean, for one thing, we can't do applied research if we don't have a basis on which to build. We won't have anything to apply. And the ERC grants, of course, support the excellent frontier research and are a major contributor to the development of new ideas and broad exploration of new possibilities. We also have the top-up funding called Proof of Concept, which helps our grantees to test the innovation potential of those new ideas and technologies and figuring out whether they should be brought to market. ERC projects have so far led to 2,200 patents on exclusively bottom-up research, resulting from exclusively bottom-up research. And ERC grantees have founded or co-founded over 400 startups. So that's already a lot of evidence. And we've conducted a recent study that analyzes how ERC-funded research influences technology development. We found that over 7% of scientific publications acknowledging ERC funding are cited by subsequent patent applications. So even if the people themselves don't do anything, their work is used in other people's patents. So that's a really high rate for scientific publications covering all fields, including the social sciences and the humanities. And then, of course, there is the wonderful complementarity between the ERC and the EIC, the European Innovation Council. Turns out that around 60% of the EIC transition grants went to people who were former or current ERC grantees and who'd previously won proof of concept grants. So I think that's pretty convincing that there is a complementarity and that complementarity works. And I really look forward to hearing from the researchers here today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Maria. So, Mark, the EIC offers a broad range of support for researchers and startups to develop or bring to market breakthrough technologies. In your view, how are synergies with the ERC and the EIT further adding to the value of these startups and the initiatives of the EIC?
So thank you very much. And I too firmly believe in the complementarity between the ERC, the EIC, and the EIT. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that complementarity. I'll draw these from one of the European Innovation Council's major programs, the Accelerator Program, whereby a company in Europe, a startup or a small company, can receive up to 2.5 million in a grant and up to 15 million in equity, with a view to crowding in other investors. So as Maria said, 25 of the companies that we funded under this transition call, where you're transitioning to form a new company within the EIC, were previous ERC proof of concept holders. So that's great. I mean, this is what we're trying to do. The ERC is trying to support basic research. In some cases, that may lead to a possible commercial exploitation. And the transition program pulls that through. And the Accelerator Program then allows the company to grow and to scale and to compete on a global basis. So that's the first example with the European Research Council. Furthermore, in the work program for 2023, as you already alluded to, Nectarius, there's a program between all three, the EIC, the ERC, and the EIT, to provide internships for distinguished researchers from the ERC or from EIT-supported students or Maria Sklodowsky partners to form an internship to go and work in an innovative small startup. And I think that's really good. It will give eminent researchers an experience of what it's like to work in an innovative company. And then with the ERC, we organize workshops on cutting-edge technologies, gene therapy, energy, and so on, bringing together the top researchers from the ERC, the top small companies from the EIC, the top investors. And that's a very potent mix to really see where the opportunities are scientific, technologically, commercially in these emerging fields. And then with the EIT, if you look there, 45 of the 164 companies that were selected under the EIC Accelerator Program, that's the program to accelerate the development of companies, had received previous support from the EIT. So the EIT had been bootstrapping them, helping them to develop the business, and the EIC had been pushing them forward to allow them to develop and to scale. As I said earlier, we're working on the internship program as well, and there's a plug-in program with the EIT. And there are gender initiatives across all three of the agencies, ERC, EIC, and EIT, in order to foster more women, for example, in startup companies, more women researchers, more women in venture capital. So I see this as a very good linkage. I mean, on the one hand, the European Innovation Council is pulling through research advances and technology from the ERC or from any of the other Horizon or national programs. It's then trying to accelerate those developments, accelerate those companies. It's trying to crowd in other private investors, de-risk the investment so that we can invest at scale and allow these companies to grow. And then on the other hand, handing them on to the other European programs, the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund and others, when they need much more support. For example, if they're large companies and they need to raise 100 million or 200 million in order to be able to commercialize their technologies. And this is really important. I mean, it's really important for scientific discovery, where good ideas come from anywhere. It's really important for Europe's technological sovereignty, and it's really important to solve major societal problems such as climate and health and so on. And it requires this joined up ecosystem where all of the parts work in synergy and there's a smooth handoff from one to the other. And of course, not everything works. Not all research programs work the way you expect. Not all companies develop the way you would expect. And we need to embrace that too. There will be huge successes. There will be very modest successes. There will be some things that don't work out the way you expect, but that's fine because those people can think about all things they'll have learned from the experience. So I'm really supportive of this collaborative approach between the ERC, the EIT, and the EIC.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark. So indeed, the ERC, EIT, EIC chain essentially covers the entire research and innovation journey. From the idea, the ERC supports ideas, great ideas, innovative ideas, to successful products or services that are then brought to the market. So let's just imagine a research idea that's supported by the ERC proof of concept program that Maria mentioned. at the very beginning of this journey, then the EIT community comes in the picture and helps to convert research results into concrete products or services and bring them to the market. And finally, when these companies have grown, the EIC Accelerator becomes the natural next step, as you mentioned, for them to further scale up and expand to the global markets using the EIC Accelerator's big ticket investment, for example. So I think we have great opportunities here for synergies that will indeed make a difference for European innovation. And now, going in that direction, I would like now to ask Jose Capmany for his own experience. So, Jose, how instrumental was your ERC Advanced grant in providing the conditions for your pioneering research to become a general purpose photonic processor?
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for the question. Well, I have to say that this has been a unique experience, and it's been the ERC Advanced Grant has been instrumental. And the way I want to explain this is that when we thought about applying for this grant, we have this vision of developing a new approach, which was completely different from what is already being done in integrated photonics. We believe that this approach could make a difference in the future, and so we decided to explore. However, when you are kicking off from the very beginning and you need to have like a very flexible scheme, because you have to try many things. There is a lot of risk in many things that you do. You may not succeed but again, the gain that you can have is very big. So the ERC Advanced Grant provided us with this flexible instrument because, as opposed to other more traditional funding schemes, for example, the former H2020 program, you are not stick to a detailed set of objectives that you have to comply with the very strict times, and also you have also the freedom to have an extended time duration. So that gives you a little bit of freedom and a bit of peace of mind to direct your research. And for me, in particular, in our project, we at the very beginning, we were very excited about the scientific possibilities. Okay, so we thought, okay, we can develop this paradigm of programmable photonics. We think that we are going to be able to make chips with the wonderful capacities, as it is probably going to happen. And but then, as time went by, we started to think about also the possibility of, well, this concept is really worth to give a try and to try to explore in other areas, and that opened us the possibility of thinking about going one step beyond and trying to have some extra activities, for which, of course, the ERC, as it has been mentioned right before by Maria, provides also opportunities. So my summary is that it is a unique instrument and unique opportunity to really carry this unconstrained research that you need to develop big ideas, even if, well, that not be mine, of course, but for other researchers as well.
Thanks, Jose. So I'd like now to ask Bertrand. Of course, your company is developing the Hyperloop, and you are aiming to make the next generation of transportation system by creating a metro network on a global scale. So I'm very curious to hear what triggered the concept behind Hyperloop, and how did you navigate the obstacles that you faced up until now?
Yeah, Nick, thank you for your question. And I'll give the perspective of a deep tech startup. It all started with Elon Musk's white paper about a new mode of transportation, as the current modes, such as flying trains and cars, are at their limits. So the four founders picked up on these thoughts, and the momentum really increased after they won that SpaceX competition. And these challenges, and I know from my EIT experience that there's a lot of these challenges being held, are very, very important. So if you say what triggered, it's really these challenges. And then the founders pretty much settled on a vision where distance doesn't matter, and open to everyone, keeping the climate equation and the energy use in mind. And in the further analysis, it became clear that to achieve that vision, and for it to make business sense, because we are a business, it needs to be business sense, you need a network. And for a network to function, you need a switch. Now, with a new technology, you're in a show me business. You know, you ask about the obstacles we've been facing. So these obstacles are to show progress with limited funds. And that's where the EIT and the EIC grants, but also the equity components come in very, very good. So we've successfully built a 30-meter low-speed facility to prove the switch and some of the other Hyperloop core technology. And now we're raising funds to continue with the realization of a 400-meter test facility, which we call the European European Hyperloop Center. It will be an open facility because we do support the open innovation philosophy very much. Another challenge is our own positioning. We've now settled on being a technology firm, asset light, but that means we need to build, and for a transportation system, you need public support, but we need to build an ecosystem with partners. So far on the public sector side, we've been successful in getting regional support in Groningen, it's a province in the Netherlands, and the adjoining state in Germany, Niedersachsen. We have national support in the Netherlands, and through EIC, EIT, as well as DG Move, we get support from Brussels. And having support on all these three levels is very important. Through the Hyperloop Development Program, we have the private sectors participating, including some of the other Hyperloop developers. So as I said, we support open innovation, but building an ecosystem with partners as well as other Hyperloop developers is not always easy. I'm a strong believer that we have to prove Hyperloop in Europe. There is a lot of interest from outside Europe, but everybody looks at us for proving a new system, the standards, the regulatory regime, and so on. The strong reputation of Europe to develop technology, prove it, but also use it in our own continent is very important, and I'm all about keeping that alive.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, the grandiose vision. So coming back to Jose, you noted that you received support in addition to the advanced grant. You were the recipient of an ERC proof of concept grant. So in what way did the ERC proof of concept help you launch your spin-off, Hyperonics? Was it the transition from the ERC proof of concept to EIC smooth? And can you tell us a little bit about your experience in that respect?
Yes, thank you. Indeed, yes. When we were developing the ERC Advanced Grant, which was targeted for developing programmable photonic processors, but for a specific area of application, in this case it was 5G systems. We started to discover and realize that this concept could be have a much bigger application. So we're very excited about the possibility, and we're starting to see that the programmable photonics could be evolved in a way very similar to what programmable electronic microprocessors, DSPs, etc., are being used today, and that's a huge history of success in electronics. So we decided, okay, why not thinking about exploring the possibility of developing this more generic programmable processor and explore the possibilities of, first of all, explore the viability and the additional technical issues connected with additional applications. Also, whether we could develop some IPR from our previous work that could be used for that. And we thought that the proof of concept instrument was ideal because it provides you with this lump sum scheme and complete flexibility. And one of the things that was instrumental also was that in the items that the proof of concept could cover was the covering these initial expenses for establishing your company. You need support probably from lawyers. You need help and support from IP specialists. So that was absolutely instrumental in leading us to funding the spin-off company, which we did within the proof of concept lifetime. And after that, to follow up with the second part of the question, you know, when you are developing your ERC grants and the basic ones, you are expected mainly to develop your what they call technology readiness level from a very low value to a small value, but it's just a prototype, okay? So then the proof of concept allows you to consolidate that a bit and start exploring what it is known as the business readiness level of your idea, whether it could lead up to a good business or market perspectives. So usually when you finish your proof of concept, you're at a given number of level of business and technology that is still a little bit far from the accelerator instrument, which was the traditional one that was granted by the EIC. But luckily, and by the time that POC finished, we learned that this transition instrument would be launched, and this is absolutely fantastic because it's a perfect match. It allows us to bridge the gap between the technology and business level that you reach outside of when you finish your ERC grants to those that are required in the accelerator. So the transition has helped us to do, or is helping us to do this transition or this change or evolution in a very smooth way. I mean, that's is something that we welcome very much, and that was missing, but now is there, and of course, it's a brilliant idea.
Thanks, Jose. So Bertrand, while looking at your company's journey, we see that you have been supported by both the EIT through the InnoEnergy Kick and the European Innovation Council. Can you tell us a little bit about how this became possible for your company, and how would you then say that the EU support helped the development of Hyperloop? And finally, do you think that there's something that we can do better to support companies such as yours in the future?
Yes, this is a great question. Yes, as Mark mentioned, the complementarity between EIT and EIC is real. First of all, we are grateful to EIC, the EIT Kick InnoEnergy for the support, and they supported us with 5 million in our startup phase. But it's not only the financial part; it's also the coaching, the hands-on management, navigating in Brussels, etc. So the Kick does much more. We're equally grateful for the EIC support in our scale-up phase, particularly for making the European Hyperloop Center a reality. And that support is crucial for getting private sector funding. Winning the EIC Accelerator, and for us that was 2.5 million in grant and about 13 million in equity, just puts you in a different orbit. People know that you belong to the best 1% because, you know, winning the EIC Accelerator has a great reputation. And with that credibility, you know, you can make some serious scale-up steps. However, I have a serious concern that the venture capital market in Europe is not developed for deep tech with its longer horizons. And we are facing that right now. To find a credible lead investor as required by the EIC Accelerator, they're just not in Europe. You have some in the United States, maybe in some other areas as well, but not in Europe. And that puts a real challenge for us in unlocking that EIC commitment. And we see the same with national public sector support with these type of programs. Therefore, we need the EIC support as well on a national level, in our case, InvestNL, to be more creative in finding solutions to keep great innovations in Europe. And particularly in EIC, we need clear timelines and processes so we can be predictable to the investor community. I believe, and I've been around for a while now, that Europe enjoys great ideation, incubation in a startup scene, but for scaling up, it really becomes difficult. If you take the pension funds in the Netherlands, less than 1% goes back to our country. The rest is spent somewhere else. So Europe, from a public sector perspective, does well on the funding side with institutions like EIT, EIC, etc., and also from the regulatory side. But most important, I believe, for a scale-up company is the role the public sector can play as a launching customer. For breakthrough technologies, and we're all aware of Matsukato theories, and the examples, for instance, in the US are clear, but we need more space for innovative solutions. Private sector procurement tends to be very risk averse with little space for breakthrough innovation. And this has to change to keep breakthrough innovations in Europe. The public sector focus, which is traditionally addressing market failure, really needs to shift to address transition failure. And lastly, also large corporates could do more as a launching customer, because you can get those early financial injections, but then the market traction becomes very important. And for deep tech, sometimes that market traction takes a little bit longer, especially if you're in a deep tech transition.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. I mean, those are real challenges. We should, of course, avoid the innovate here, exploit elsewhere syndrome that fortunately plagues Europe and many European countries, my country among them, because of these issues that you mentioned already. So I think we've heard a lot of interesting points. I would ask Maria and Mark if you want to provide your comments on what you've heard from our beneficiaries.
Well, it's amazing.
Sure.
It confirms
Go ahead, Maria.
exactly what we said at the beginning. And, the proof that thing, that the basic to innovation works. I find the comments we just heard on the dearth of venture capital, that is really concerning. And I don't think if we are at the bottom of this whole cascade. It would be wonderful if people could find ways of changing that. And I don't know how it can change. Maybe we can hear more about that.
Mm-hmm. Mark?
And I'll also pick that up. I mean, picking up on the last comments, I completely agree. I mean, that's one of the roles of the European Innovation Council. It's to de-risk scaling investments and to crowd in private investors. And you're absolutely right. The private investors in Europe are less numerous on the ground, and they're a bit more risk averse, for example, than their American counterparts. But that's changing. Part of the role of the EIC is to try and catalyze that change. A few glimmers of hope. American investors who invested in European companies last year made more money from that than they did from investments in American companies. So that's really interesting. And it's saying that some of the really important investors are turning to Europe. What's also going to be useful is when there are some big successes. Nothing succeeds like jealousy. So when people have invested and the European companies have come good, then that will encourage more people. And it's part of the role of the EIC to catalyze that. And just to give you one example, which shows that there are some glimmers of hope. the European Innovation Council invested in a fantastic European company called Heart Aerospace, which is developing electric planes. So these are small planes that are for essentially commuting between cities, carry about 30 passengers, a lot of technological innovation. And last week, Air Canada ordered 30, I repeat, 30 aeroplanes from Heart Aerospace. So that's really interesting. You know, where was the first order? It didn't come from Europe, it came from Canada. It's at scale, the company's technology works. So if you look at these kind of prizes, you know, when you're a researcher publishing a new discovery, being invited to give talks, talking about what it does, that's kind of one of the stages on the journey. When you're raising money, it's about the amount of money you've raised or the proof of concept or the value of your company as a unicorn. But ultimately, in the commercial world, it's about the product you sell. Do customers want it? Will they buy it at scale, and can you produce it? People buy from Apple and Microsoft and so on. And we want European companies like that. We want the Hyperloop, you know, to be a European invention and ordered. We have work to do on public procurement. There is something in the EIC's work program for 2023 about that, trying to stimulate more of the public authorities in Europe to procure innovative solutions. But there are glimmers of hope. There's a journey to go on in terms of catalyzing large investments. But I, for one, am really hopeful, because the really important questions to solve are about climate change, around health, around managing the environment and so on. And these speak to European values. These speak to the application of technology to solve societal problems. And what better then we discover a new solution to an important societal problem, that we develop that solution, and that the people who develop it make money and pay tax in Europe, and it's a European company for European research and European taxpayers. And that's the journey we're on, and that's what the ERC, EIT, EIC has to do, and to reach out onto all the other European and national funds and crowd in the private investors and the corporates. It is a journey. We're not at the destination yet, but actually I, for one, am very hopeful that we're on the right trajectory. We're getting more velocity, and we will arrive at the destination. There'll be bumps along the road, of course, but the cooperation between all of the three agencies and the national and other European programs is vital, and we have it, and let's capitalize on it.
Thank you very much, Mark. Indeed, those were all nice points. Thank you all for the very interesting discussion that we've had today, which I think clearly demonstrates the great added value of further deepening synergies between our organizations. And in the spirit of complementarity, indeed for the benefit of European innovators. From the EIT side, I'm really convinced that this complementarity is already showing its impact. The EIT is very well placed to build on ERC results relevant to specific societal challenges and scale them up towards the market. And of course, while the EIT builds ecosystems and a community which guides innovators through the entire innovation journey, from education to market, the EIC then provides significant direct financing for high risk, high potential ventures, and helps individual researchers and startups enter markets and scale up. I would like to thank you all in concluding today's discussion, and take this opportunity to invite you all to a great series of events, the Innovate Weeks. I would like to encourage you to register and follow our Innovate events happening around Europe, and most specifically, the EIT Summit taking place on the 11th of October in Brussels and online, of course. So thank you again.
Bye.